Thank you, everyone. Is my slide, is it moving?
It is. Thank you.
Okay, great. Well, once again, thank you for this warm introduction and good afternoon, distinguished guests. I would not forget to appreciate the effort of every organizing team member of this event and the privilege given to me to present right now, as well as all the presentations that were already made that were so insightful and eye-opening to enhance the student learning experience. My name is Januario, and I was well introduced. And apart from being a postdoctoral fellow of the University of the Witwatersrand, I'm also a guest lecturer for the subject of environmental engineering, as well as the subject of process chemical engineering. In the next 45 minutes, 30 minutes, I was given in fact 20 minutes. I will try to summarize as much as I can of my presentation, not to be long enough. And in advance, thanking you for your audience. Well, I will not fail to acknowledge my mentors and institutions that impacted on my academic life to be where I am today. Inside of the walls of the University of the Witwatersrand, my late Professor Diakanu Ankazi, his memory live forever, and Prof. Jean Mulepo, as well as Prof. Josiah van der Merwe, who was my PhD co-supervisor, Prof. Kevin, who is my current host at the university. And beyond the walls of the WIT University, I have Prof. Notic at the University of South Africa, UNISA, as well as Prof. Work at the University of Oldenburg in Germany, and Prof. Alexander in Sweden at the University of World Maritime. Where do most students go after university? And how these impact their learning experience during and after education? I'm sure that no one would want to study yet to go sit home. I think this was perceived. If this was perceived, probably what would have happened is that most students would have dropped out of the school. Is this being a good, positive, or negative experience? Will that move or motivate everyone else to make it for education? As we are sure, we believe that the education is there to shape our future and to lift us out of the poverty. Currently, there's a huge concern of the unemployment rate worldwide. In South Africa, particularly amongst youth, the world population currently sitting at 7.9 billion based on 2022 states, whereas only 3.5 billion are employed. It's almost half of populations of the world unemployed. And if we narrow this down closer to home, the size of South Africa's population is currently at 16 million. If only 60% of this figure are the employed people, then we have less than 20 millions. In fact, according to the QSL states, 16.7 million is the number of employed people out of 60 million. This raises question about how to utilize effectively our youthful population in the continent. The situation is really exacerbated by the argument that many young people are pursuing degrees and they are highly qualified, just to end up in the market of no employment. Why do we think that should be done to make our education system more relevant and enhance the student learning experience during and after their qualifications? I remember yesterday one of our key note speakers spoke of social justice, and she did emphasize that the student learning experience or learning teaching experience is not all about pedagogics, or shouldn't be just be considered in that regard, but it's also about social justice. And in my opinion, this is only consistent with a teaching system that will ensure the success of their students for the market after obtaining their qualifications. I'm certain that it is not solely the responsibility of the governments to create jobs, but rather it should be a collective effort that includes an education system that fosters entrepreneurial spirit as a viable alternative to traditional employment. I'm sure we all agree that if there are more companies, there will be more jobs. If there are fewer companies or fewer enterprises, there will be fewer jobs. If there are no industry, simple as this, there are no jobs. So an education that is not aligned to business values and principles can no longer be able to take people out of poverty. It is hard to be uneducated and yet end up poor. That's why in my presentation, I thought of emphasizing this important aspect of education system to maybe rethink the focus of our teaching institutions to prepare our students for their own venture in future, or as soon as they are done with their qualifications, to not just have one single exit, which we perceive: study, go and look for a job. Why not study and go make jobs, create economic opportunities? So let's spend some time to understand and define what is the concept of entrepreneurship. We may think that entrepreneurship is all about having fancy offices and be out there showing ourselves in a very expensive means, like such as car, but that's not really what it is. In fact, one needs not to be rich to be considered as an entrepreneur. Even self-employed people in small businesses, enterprise, are also entrepreneurs. And one of the benefits of this is that instead of them looking for a job, they are able at least to employ one or two people. Hence, they are even taking people out of an unemployment. Entrepreneurship is about financial independence, it's about job creation, and this transcends the existence of resources. It is a path to prosperity. An entrepreneur will have the ability to translate ideas into actions that have socio-economic impacts. And in an academic context, innovations from studies, from research could be converted into valuable market assets. It is time to break the ice. I think our continent needs this the most. We need that produces degrees that will be used to create jobs rather than hunting. Because we are concerned about entrepreneurship, I would still spend some time to discuss a little bit more about it, and also to debug what are the qualities of an entrepreneur. It is not an easy road. I'm sure that it carries along its own challenges. but yet I don't think there's anything else tougher than being unemployed. Anyone can be an entrepreneur as long as we have a strong drive, determination, creativity, and the willingness to take risks. Even students are not excluded from this path. Entrepreneurs are not born, but made with the right mindset and the right skill set. This right mindset, of course, must partly be nurtured through the right education system, in addition to the science fundamentals, which we are routinely taught, such as mathematics, engineering, humanities. We seem to undermine an important aspect of application of the scientific knowledge which we teach students. That is entrepreneurship. To use the scientific knowledge as gadgets to create economic opportunities. In my opinion, from any field, we can establish enterprises. We can start a business from any scientific knowledge. Could it be IT, law, economics, science, or engineering? But this needs a proper motivation. And specific policies should be put in place to really ensure that students are helped and they may find it easy, viable to follow this path after they are done and during their education. Many students had brilliant ideas that could change the world, but they were not sufficiently empowered, and they just lost those for not knowing how to turn this into profit. I don't doubt that it's not every university that at least had one innovation or incubation hub that should at least be actively engaged in the life of students, offering some classes such as startup classes and programs on entrepreneurship, how to create your own business, how to do market research, how to look for potential partners, and how to identify customers. Those are the concepts that should build in the student's mind as early as possible during their study journey, that will enable them to think beyond the job market, rather contributing to that. I doubt if students are being given such incentives or emphasis on the important subjects during their learning curve. The principles of our university education, and I'm sure that it's not an insult to say because I'm a product of this, should make a huge difference between a well-educated and a well-trained mind, because a trained mind has got practical skills and it has, along with it, a practical application of whatsoever that is being taught. What I know for sure is that the quality of a human capital can only be created through quality education. High quality training will always provide students with the necessary skills they need for the practical work. The real world is looking for trained, well-skilled people, and I really felt this while in Europe. Most of the time, even the employment market would look for skills. They wouldn't care much about these expensive fundamentals of physics and the complex mathematics modeling, they would be looking for a specific skill to fill a specific position, and that's quite common. I'm not sure if
Sorry,
while
Dr. Hossi.
teaching our students, we really care about giving practical examples that would link whatsoever concepts that we are teaching to the application of the practical world and how they would utilize this to make any impact, whether economically, societally, environmentally, whatsoever. Yes, I heard a voice. I think my time is up.
Yes, almost up. If you can give you a few minutes to conclude, and so we can open up the floor for questions, please. Apologies for that.
Okay. Once again, in the principle of university education, and I said I'm not undermining because I'm a product of this education, but we are taught the basic of these science fundamentals. And we go to mastering further in our studies, maybe doing our masters and PhDs, and we look forward publishing good papers, and we look then after that to have good jobs, which may not always happen. And the academic focus on publishing, of course, is mostly on pushing citations, because if we're at that level, we are looking at least having the opportunity to become a professor. But what do we do with so much discovery and findings that we get from our researchers? I may no doubt that while we're busy publishing, if a Chinese can just take that paper, makes a technology out of it, and with it, he makes millions. But what we look forward after those citations, besides visibility and improving our CV for potential opportunities for employment in the education system, I wouldn't know beyond that. And we are not all given this opportunity. Well, I believe that my time is really slim by now to speak about everything that I thought of sharing. What I want to say before I close is that if students are promoted to this other level of thinking in terms of application, their scientific knowledge, which they acquire at the university, they'll be taught not just to develop skills for CV writing, but they'll be taught to develop good business models out of the education that they obtained. That could be through licensing the technologies that they develop. That could be through distribution, sales of any products that they develop or services out of their knowledge or education. They would end up as consultants. There's so much that will teach them to really get out of the unemployment, rather help others to have their first jobs. If I would go beyond that, there are CES opportunities in our African context. Our trading is still low, the rate, and we find that just mingling with our own community in the continent, we have so many opportunities that are there, looking for skilled people, innovative people to make an economic impact. But is the school, the universities where we come from emphasizing this? If the education cannot promote the success of or the future of our students after they are done with the education, that education can no longer lift people out of poverty. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Doctor.
I hope I could pass a little of what my ideas are in this topic, and I'll open up the floor for discussions or any contributions as well as questions.
Thank you, Doctor. We've got a minute left before we go to the closure. So I'll open up the floor. This is really an interesting and intriguing discussion, and I think it's so relevant because It's something that seems to be missing, and it also appeals to how do we help to close that poverty gap and developing students, or for students that are going to have the more venture creation mindset. So colleagues, I'm going to open the floor up for any questions, please. Any questions for Dr. Januari?
Hi.
Please go ahead, Christine.
So I come from a completely different background where I studied design. And one of the key components that I think that we can take from it is that we are taught how to start our own business as a freelancer. Most of the jobs, if you look for junior design jobs, you need 3 years worth of experience before you can even apply for the job. There are very, very few opportunities for junior design positions in various businesses. However, we all are expected to know how to start our own freelance business, and we are taught all of the things that you mentioned: market research, business, how businesses work, and so forth, since we are working with businesses to help them market their own skills as well. So that might be a good place to look at in the future as well. Just a comment from me.
Thank you very much, Christine. I think it's also an important comment. Dr. Januari, you want to just comment on that before we close the session?
Thank you for the comment. If I understood well, our colleague is coming from a place where she had the privilege to be taught of some of those business principles and values to be able to open and run their own venture. This is great. What I'm saying is that business can be sourced from any academic field, whether law, economics, IT, engineering, whatsoever. And what seems to be lacking at the most is to promote that entrepreneurship spirit amongst all students, irrespective of which field they come from. So if there are some that are doing extremely great, we needed to add more on that so that we nurture the same ability to all university graduates.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm gonna ask colleagues if we can. We're not. I made a mistake there. So we don't have a closure as such, but perhaps I can really ask colleagues for any more questions that you have. I think this is a very relevant topic, and it's quite crucial. So, any more questions? Thanks, Luanda. So perhaps if I can read Luanda's comment. I have a friend of mine who is doing a PhD and has never entered a place of work. My question now is, does this reduce the chances of being employed due to being overqualified? Doctor, maybe if I can read it again. Currently, I have a friend of mine who is doing a PhD and has never entered a place of work. My question now is, does this reduce the chances of being employed due to being overqualified?
Yes, the chances are there, depending on the specific skills the person has. And let me not answer this question alone. Anyone in the panel, please feel free to assist in that. But building on my own experience, just 4 months ago, while Lisa was still in Germany, there was a colleague who was confronted with a job opportunity as a mechanical engineer, but they didn't want anything to do with kinetics, to do with thermodynamics, or measuring the speeds, the rotations of the engine, which I know he knows well. all they wanted is to do some simulation and modeling on a software called Python, which would need engineering background, but the skills they needed is something else other than that which he studied. And that was a break deal. So what I'm saying that, yes, it's important that we all know we qualified, we are titled, but the market is looking for skills. And at some point you'll be paid for something that you know to do well practically rather than the expensive degrees that you bring along. This is something to consider. And to add to that, if you really can have a practical skill, something that can be utilized tangibly, consumed in the workforce by the market of employment, you are also more likely to use that skills to do something that can be privatized. I mean, you can build a business on providing, offering services based on something you know that is on demand and it is really consumed. This is my humble answer. I don't know if anyone would want to add to that. We are not dismotivating someone to study, to do PhDs. We do need qualified people. But if at that age we never have been employed before, what are the chances that what we are studying is something so relevant and that's going to give us an opportunity for employment immediately we are done?
Thank you, Dr. Anybody would like to add to that? I think it relates to universities working closer with private sector to align perhaps to qualification and the requirements is a conversation that needs to happen as well. Not to exactly to the question that Luanda alludes to. Do you become overqualified if and so forth? Thank you.